Everybody, let's have a big round of applause for this event of Maharashtra TPO Association.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Parag, I'm from Aon, and I'm here to talk about some of the study that we have been doing across different organizations, studying what their trends are with respect to talent. And I thought it would be a good idea to share those insights with you. I've been given 10 minutes, so I'm going to be rushing as much because I have a lot to cover. So yeah, please bear with me. So what I had in mind is to talk about just very briefly what Aon is all about, the insights that we derived from the study that we did recently, and what are some of the emerging priorities. We spoke to a lot of CHROs of various organizations, more than 300 plus organizations in India, and what is their top of the mind recall right now, what is their top of the mind priority, and what could be some of the key takeaways for institutions, right? So very quickly, Aon is in a business of better decisions. You would have interacted in the past with the avatar of CoCubes. You know, I've been in this firm since almost 12 years. I've interacted with some of you. Shashank has been here with us since almost a decade, and you would have interacted with him. So after the acquisition, Aon, there has been a lot of things that got evolved with respect to the way we do business. So very quickly, Aon is in a business of making better decisions, enabling better decisions, and we are a part of the human capital solutions practice. Assessment solutions is a part of the work that we do. It's one of the largest human capital advisory firm. We do a lot of advisory work for our clients with respect to rewards, with respect to performance management, with respect to assessments, capability building, HR capability, as well as manager capability. And there are various certification programs that are run across India. And the recent one is to be able to look at data, look at science, look at the kind of information that we've gathered, and to help organizations define the future world of work. So just a snapshot of what we have been doing as a firm. Talking a bit about assessment solutions. So Aon has been doing assessments since almost 3 decades now in India, and specializing assessments predominantly on leadership, potential, and that part of business has been there since more than 2 decades in India, as I said. Aon made 2 acquisitions with a firm called CoCubes and another firm called as Qt, which is a German company. And all these 3 entities came together to form Aon Assessment Solutions practice that we have. What we've been focusing on is to bring the power of data, power of science, and as you can see, we have a huge number of AI psychologists which design these assessments and help organizations to take, again, better decisions. Very quickly, a snapshot of what we've been doing: coding assessment, technical assessment, programming assessments, gamified assessments, simulation assessments. So across the life cycle of a talent, right from the person before entering into the organization to getting promoted, to getting, identifying some of the development areas, identifying some of the reskilling areas. That's the kind of work that Aon has been focusing on with respect to assessments. This is something that we've been doing with universities, with academic institutions across the country. Looking at the journey of the candidate again, right? Candidate entering into the system, entering into the academic institution, to getting an admission. So we do some admission examinations, we do some semester examinations. When the candidates get into the organization, get into the institute, they would basically do a series of different kind of assessments that help them to build employability. So that's the kind of work that we've been doing. Okay, so very quickly, Aon has been doing a lot of study. As I said, it's an advisory firm, so we do a lot of study from different organizations, help identify trends. and this is one of such study which talks about talent entropy, which is, what is it that we are looking as talent, right? So we're talking about IT industry, IT sector in India. It is one of the largest sector with respect to employment opportunities, predominantly in the engineering and the graduate space. It's growing at a phenomenal 16% year-on-year growth, and it is slated to be a $227 billion industry in 2022. And there's a lot of digitization that is happening. Look at industries and companies which are in manufacturing and oil and gas. Everywhere you are seeing there is digitization that is happening, and every organization or every industry is at a cusp of that transformation journey. So that's what we heard from some of the trends that we observe. The other thing is e-commerce is the fastest growing economy, and that is generating a lot of opportunities for the tech sector, for the kind of work that is coming in the technology sector. So those are some of the things that we saw with respect to talent, with respect to trends in IT sector. What that means for talent, right? So what we saw is, and this is data that we got from organizations. This is what we heard from organizations. So the current demand of talent is growing at a compounded annual growth rate of 30%, and there is still an unmet talent demand with mostly on the tech sector side for around 25 to 30% of that demand is unmet. And this is consistently going to grow. We saw some of the speakers talk about the kind of innovation, the kind of stuff that is happening, and the opportunities that it brings in for the technology sector. Okay, we also looked at some of the trends that we saw with respect to attrition, and what was not surprising is services organizations and financial institutions are looking at having one of the highest attritions, and whereas if you look at startups, software product companies, that particular sector is able to attract talent, and right now it could be a function of compensation which is not going to be sustainable. So really organizations and institutions will have to create like an ecosystem that works well. This is interesting data, right? I'll just explain it in a bit. So on the left hand side, this graph, this talks about the growth or the requirement or the demand side of the equation across different skill sets, and what was evidently observed, and it came out very clearly from the speakers just before that, is full stack, data, AI/ML, cloud architecture. Some of those skills are of the highest demand in terms of talent requirement. And on the right hand side of the graph, it talks about how easy or difficult it is to attract and retain that kind of talent, taking into consideration several factors like skills, current skill gap, to say that, or for that matter, attrition, right? So looking at this information, full stack development, AI/ML, cloud stood out as the hot skills, and they will continue to remain as hot skills, in addition to things around cyber security, etc. Similarly, in infrastructure support and security, what we saw is cloud maintenance roles has the highest sort of demand. Software maintenance and software migration, so that is also some change that is happening. Application security, GRC, which is governance, risk and compliance. Those are some of the skills, again, that from a demand perspective are on the higher side vis-a-vis the supply/skill gap perspective. Okay, another important thing that was discovered from this study is right now industry is going and undergoing a big challenge of offer decline ratio, which was not there as much in the last decade or so. So the highest number of offer decline ratio that is happening in services industries and automotive sectors as well as financial institutions. Okay. This is another interesting data point on how organizations are evolving their talent strategy with respect to recruitment, and this is likely like a sort of a good news for tier 2, tier 3 kind of. I'm on my time. Can I take 2-3 minutes to summarize? Yeah, thanks. So, tier 2, tier 3 cities essentially where talent is out there right now with the whole scheme of things around remote working, hybrid working, organizations are able to hire talent and deploy talent in tier 2, tier 3 cities. They can work from home and still it will work out fine. And that's how the equation works, right? Like if you look at data like Kolkata, where there is huge sort of talent pool that is out there, but the demand is not there. So organizations need to rethink of their strategy of how can they go to tier 2, tier 3 cities and hire talent from there, right? So very quickly, when we spoke to the CHROs and understood from them what is keeping their life busy, this came out to be the top priorities for the CHROs for in 2022. One of the biggest thing is redefining the EVP and the cultural aspects of the organization. The second thing is reassessing their reward strategy, reassessing their benefit strategy, what kind of benefit they are providing to the candidates, to the people who are joining the firm. So we saw that attrition data with respect to people leaving the organization, and the major reason for that, although is compensation, but there are other reasons around career graph and what kind of value that the organization has to offer. So these were some of the priorities for corporate. What as institutions are some of the takeaways that we can think of, and this is my attempt at putting down some of the pointers that what we can think, and this is similar themes that we also saw in the previous sessions in the morning. Is how do you sort of prepare your candidates not just for present but also for future. Organizations are talking about future readiness. Technology is changing at a very unprecedented pace, so you need to evolve. You need to have Manoj sir said about the TP model, right? So this is precisely what even organizations are saying. So staying ahead of the trend, investing into skills for future, assessing the need to see, is there a need to upskill, reskill the faculty members as well, right? With the change that is happening, is there that need that is being addressed by the institutions? Are chairmen, TPOs, directors, HODs thinking about this problem? And finally, as I said, the important matrix to be taken into consideration is joining ratio, selection ratio. Those are the biggest priorities for organizations. And this is something that I have to show. That's it. Thank you.